Are you thinking about investing out of state? Well, let me tell you what I've been learning so far. Let's get started. As many of you know, I've been able to leverage my Los Angeles properties, whether I sold one, use a line of credit, whatever, and start investing out of state. I invested out of state for a lot of reasons. One of the main reasons was the rent control guidelines that were in place at the time made it basically impossible to be a landlord here, to be quite honest. The eviction moratorium was still in place. They were imposing more laws. Now I can start revisiting some of those guidelines to see if it makes sense. But at the time, it only made sense to invest out of state. So where did I invest? I invested in Nashville with a business partner, and I have a rental in Birmingham, Alabama. So what have I learned so far, right? Because this is a learning experience for me, and I want to share that. A couple things to keep in mind. First and foremost, in hindsight, I would have joined Facebook groups in those respective cities. Why? Because I want to see where tenants are looking to live, right? So for example, in Nashville, there's a lot of people posting, hey, looking for a place in downtown, Germantown, which is basically right by downtown, all these different areas. Well, then I would have immediately known this is where I need to be looking to buy because I already know there's a tenant pool there. Instead, we ended up investing closer to one of the universities. And it took a minute to get everything rented out. And I had to think about that. I was like, why did it take so long? Till I realized I'm near a university. I started getting inquiries, which I'll go into in a second, of people saying, well, can I start my lease in June, July, August, right? Because it wasn't in line with the academic calendar. The other thing to keep in mind is working with property managers. So real estate was supposed to be a passive investment, and it has been for decades. Now it's become a very active activity, even with property managers. You got to follow up with the property managers. You also need to take a look at the contracts and see what are they charging, what don't they charge. So we're always in the mindset, all right, property managers charge between 6 to 10%. Alabama, they charge a little bit more because the price points are much lower, but they also may charge extra fees. So they're going to charge to find a new tenant. They're going to charge to renew a lease. They also may charge on top of all repairs. So really, it's kind of like, well, what is this 10% for? Well, peace of mind, taking phone calls, processing payments, all those sorts of things. So when you are looking for property management, you got to read the fine print and really understand everything that's included, which of course I did, but I'm just sharing it with you guys. There's also multiple property managers out there. It doesn't hurt to talk to multiple ones. Everyone has pros and cons, just depending on what they are. Some other things to factor in is making sure you really have a solid team. Make sure that you work with a realtor that has investment properties. That's what I did. It worked out well. That's why clients work with me, because I own rentals. I am house hacking. I'm doing what they want to do. So if I'm doing what they want to do, I'm clearly a good match. The same applies here. I still keep in contact with those realtors, even after the deals are done, because I want to continue that relationship. Sometimes they send us deals. Say, hey, look, this is on the market. It's not a bad deal. And it gives me a chance to analyze it. The other thing to think about is because I come from a place of house hacking, I tend to have a little bit more leeway in terms of my expenses, right? I don't need to put as much money aside for repairs, things like that, because I'm justifying it as I would have those same expenses if I lived in it on my own. But with out-of-state investment properties, you really have to take a look at every little nuance, right? So for example, many investors, including myself, I tend to do 5% for vacancy, 5% for repairs, which would be like fixing a plumbing leak, and then 5% for capital expenditures. That might be replacing a roof, replacing an AC unit, but then you got to add on there, does the property manager charge an extra fee? You might need to factor that in. Or did you factor in an average for the cost to find a new tenant? So if it costs 1 month's rent, did you average that out over 1 year, 2 years, however you want to do it? So these are things you have to really hone in on your spreadsheets to make sure that it's very detailed and that you know what you're getting yourself into. The other thing that I've been learning is the contracts and how people interact are different than Los Angeles. So what do I mean by that? Well, how people negotiate is very different. Here in Los Angeles, if we have an offer that's sent out, then we have what's called a counter offer that might come back. In Alabama, they literally would scratch stuff off and write a new one, right? And they would do it all digitally, of course, but I saw this, I was shocked. I was like, what is going on here? Also, you gotta read, here in California, we have to, as buyers, have to actively release your contingencies. So for those that are watching don't know what a contingency is, contingencies are like subject tos. I'm buying the house subject to I'm okay with the inspection, subject to the loan gets approved, subject to the appraisal. In other states, after the time, right, you might have 5 days, 10 days, 15 days. Once that passes, it's automatically released, right? Here in California, if we've passed that due date, then it's not like, oh, the appraisal is automatically approved, or oh, it's automatically okay with inspections. I have to say, no, I am okay with it. Even though I'm late, I am okay with it, or I'm not okay with it and have cancellation rights. That's huge. I was in escrow on a property in Alabama, and we had passed those due dates, so I couldn't cancel because of those. I had to find another way to cancel. In their case, you actually did have to actively release the appraisal contingency, and because we had issues with the appraisal, that was my way out. But these are all things you have to keep in mind. So contracts are different, property management, you gotta figure out what works for you, and then also truly understand the market, understanding neighborhoods, looking to see where people actually want to live. All those things will play a role. And one of the best things is because so Facebook changed their guidelines to where companies can't post listings. So I had to post on Facebook Marketplace on behalf of my properties, which allowed me to get a lot of feedback, right? Are the property managers responding in a timely manner? What are people looking for? I had some people saying, well, do you have 3 bedrooms available? Do you have 1 bedrooms available? Now I know when I buy the next one, what to actually look for. So although it's a lot of work, it was good to get that information. Love to hear your thoughts. How are you living in Los Angeles, leveraging what you own to go buy investment property so you can build wealth for you and your kids and your kids' kids and all that fun stuff? Comment below. Don't forget to follow or subscribe and hit that like button. You guys have a great day.